hello everybody, we are back with the last leg of our journey into nakshatras as regards the profession. And Dennis Hannes is here with us once again with pleasure to talk to us about the last 9 nakshatras and the professions that they have to offer to us. Welcome back once again, Dennis. And what do you plan to teach us with these last set of 9 nakshatras today? How do you plan to go about it?
Thanks, Anuradha. I just thought we could go through them and, I'll mention some of the career interests that I think that I've seen in my research, but also I want to also get your opinion as well. So I would like this to be a dialogue between us as both of us have been researching this for, several years. So we'll go ahead and start with Mula.
Sure. It's a pleasure to be talking to you, Dennis, any time of the day.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find that Mula, even though it's a Rakshasa nakshatra, more of a, challenging nakshatra, I find it to show a lot of spiritual teachers I found with the moon here. And maybe it's the combination of this lunar mansion being fully in the sign of Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, the guru planet, and then also the ruling planet of the nakshatra is Ketu, which is connected with moksha, or spiritual liberation. So in my research, I found, for example, the Dalai Lama has his moon in this nakshatra. Also, Sri Aurobindo has his moon in this nakshatra. And the famous minister in the United States, Billy Graham, who was probably one of the most popular evangelists in the United States, moon in this nakshatra. And then finally, also Al Gore, who's done a lot of work with, global warming. And so I find there's a lot of humanitarian energy associated with this nakshatra as well. So it can lend itself also to lawyers, politicians, because of the Jupiter influence. But again, I find that writers also have this nakshatra sometimes prominent. So to me, it's I found it to be a very positive nakshatra. I know it's connected with Nariti, which is kind of a Kali energy, but here at the end of the day, maybe there's some intensity that goes on in their lives. But overall, I find it to be a favorable nakshatra for career.
Yeah. I found that people who are researchers, because again, it's a fire sign, which is a futuristic sign in itself. So with researchers who dig deep down, because of the roots, the sign of this nakshatra is, Mula nakshatra is the roots. So getting down to the roots to bring about things for the future, to improve the future, as with the fire sign and the roots combined, I found researchers and people having, a very holistic attitude towards life, towards science, to be associated with this nakshatra also.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. So we see that this nakshatra has maybe some connection also with Ayurveda or with herbal medicines as well, because of the roots, can be there as well. Or at least an interest in holistic health or natural healing, things like that. So the next nakshatra is Purva Bhadrapada, which again falls totally within the sign of Sagittarius and is ruled by Venus. So usually these people are very popular. I think this moon, they say that it's connected with the symbol of the fan, a fan. And so they say their name will be fanned around a lot. They sometimes indicate fame with this. I find, again, politicians, lawyers, because of the Jupiter influence here, can be indicated. Actors, film, also public speaking. One of the famous talk show hosts in the United States, Johnny Carson, had his moon nakshatra. And Rajneesh, also the spiritual teacher, moon in this nakshatra. More of an infamous person is Adolf Hitler, with this moon and Jupiter. But as we were talking before, you were mentioning about his chart. he was, I mean, of course, very powerful. And, the moon sometimes indicates effect over the masses. So a lot of people saw him as almost like a spiritual teacher. And he was very much into really Hinduism, and even took the swastika, and made it into this his symbol. So I find this nakshatra again sometimes connected, again, as I mentioned, with public speaking. So people that are very strong in their speech, their communication. What have you found in your research, Anuradha?
I think there are more of doctors also in this sign, because again it's ruled by Jupiter on the whole, the sign. Then this nakshatra in particular being ruled by with Venus, it's Shukracharya, somebody who's always into learning and rejuvenation and resurrection. So doctors, because basically this nakshatra, as it comes out to me, promotes a lot of intelligence in a person.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, the next nakshatra is Uttarashada, which the first pada falls into the sign of Sagittarius, and the last three padas fall into Capricorn. I have found this very much connected with social work and wanting to do things to bring people together. It's called the universal star. So I find sometimes with Uttarashada, there's this strong desire to see all people as one,
Yes.
to help to overcome prejudice or, fascism or these kinds of things, racism. They want to overcome that. The good examples of that are Abraham Lincoln, with his moon in this nakshatra, Robert Kennedy, also Cat Stevens, the famous musician, and also John Lennon, who tried to do a lot of work. His famous song "Imagine all the people, living in harmony." So there's that strong connection with kind of fighters for a cause. They really need a cause to work on. I found sometimes researchers, scientists with this nakshatra as well, and especially if the moon is in Capricorn, there can be some melancholy energy that they have to overcome because the moon being in Capricorn. But again, great writers, great humanitarians. Deepak Chopra also has his moon in this nakshatra. What have you found in your research?
Actually, as far as I would just take one more minute here to explain a concept. I find this nakshatra a very, very strong nakshatra. And what is so very beautiful about it is also opposite one of the very strong nakshatras of the zodiac, Pushya nakshatra. So,
oh yeah.
So if a person has planets in both these signs in diametrically opposite nakshatras, it's a given that the person is going to rise up in life, because Pushya also has a lot of humanitarian qualities and keeping politics in mind. And also we have this nakshatra, Uttarashara nakshatra, which works well as a team, because it's the Vishwa Devatas, that is all the Devatas together working as a team. So teamwork, any work which requires a lot of team effort, does very well.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And really I have a very strong example here of that of Barack Obama. Barack Obama has his Jupiter and Saturn sitting right there in Uttarashara, and I don't remember which planet in Pushya. I think Mercury. But he really has these planets there in Pushya and Uttarashara, making him an ace politician, somebody very wise up there, and one who knows to work for the good of the people, instead of putting their food down and saying a few things. So that's my view.
Yeah, that's a really great example. Great example. The next nakshatra is called Shravana. It falls totally within the sign of Capricorn and is ruled by the moon. I consider this to be one of the more positive nakshatras, particularly because it's called the star of learning. So these are people that really need to be learning from birth till death. So sometimes they're really good as professors or teachers or even religious scholars. A good example of this is Dr. David Frawley, who has written like over 20 books, plus he does a lot of political work, because there can be connections with politics and business skills with this one as well. Also connected with travel. And I found sometimes astrologers also can have this prominent in there as far as a nakshatra. But Shravana, again, I think some of the more famous people, as I mentioned, David Frawley, also George Lucas, who popularized Star Wars, was director of those movies. And also Muhammad Ali, the famous boxer, moon in this nakshatra. So they can also be, fighters for a cause as well. They have that kind of humanitarian aspect to their nature as well. What have you found, Anuradha, in your research?
Music takes over because it's hearing. And then I also find that counselors, people who have the ability to lend a ear, also form a part of this nakshatra in profession.
Okay, great. Now, the next nakshatra is Dhanishta, which the first two padas of it are in Capricorn. Second two padas are in Aquarius, both ruled by Saturn. And this nakshatra is ruled by the planet Mars. I find quite often with this nakshatra, it's a little bit difficult for marriage. So just as a general rule. But these people are great in terms of writers, poets. They can be good also as researchers. And again, there can be some interest in charity. A good example of this is Princess Diana had her moon in Aquarius in this nakshatra Dhanishta. The famous writer Rilke and poet Rilke had this nakshatra for his moon. And also Orson Welles and Woody Allen. So it seems to lend itself to movies and to being director of movies, things like that. Again, musicians, poets, because it's considered the symbol for it is the drum, or sometimes it's called the star of symphony. So again, there can be that strong interest in musical professions.
Woody Allen is known to be a very ace musician in his own right, if I'm not mistaken, and he also.
That's right. He plays. He plays the clarinet. You're correct. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And I feel no matter what, these people attract money. Whatever they do, they attract money. With Dhanishta, these people attract money, and very keen sense of business, very, very keen sense of business in whatever they do.
What do you find in terms of, I'm just curious, in terms of marriage, any difficulties with Dhanishta?
Yes, that's a given. I find it's a given in terms of marriage. Dhanishta has a lot of problems. It's because of the Vasus. They were cursed, and so whoever is the partner generally is the cause of problems in marriage, as opposing to Purva Falguni. Again, as I was telling you, the last pada of Purva Falguni, if you have a planet there and you have a planet in the last pada of Dhanishta, there's sure to be marital issues, because Purva Falguni also has a lot of problems as regarding marriage because of infidelity. As per my observation has been, it's totally my observation.
Yeah, the other thing about this nakshatra is that it indicates that the person will have been born in the Mars nakshatra, and then they will go into 18 years of Rahu. And so that's why particularly I counsel people with this nakshatra to wait in terms of marriage, wait until they're at least into their Jupiter Mahadasha, which, will come in their 20s. So just early marriage sometimes ends in divorce. So it's especially again, even with Jupiter, if Jupiter's challenged in the chart, like Princess Diana, you know, I can't remember how old she was when she got married. She was in Rahu, but then she went into Jupiter, and Jupiter's with Saturn, conjunct Saturn, and Jupiter's debilitated in her chart. So she was running difficult cycles for marriage.
Yes, it's
now.
Yes.
The next nakshatra is very interesting. It's called Shatabisha, and it falls totally within the sign of Aquarius, and it's ruled by Rahu. It is the nakshatra that's sometimes called the 100 healers. And so it can be connected with physicians as well as doctors. And again, it seems to lend itself to astrology. Really, one of the more famous astrologers with her moon here was Ronnie Gale Dreyer, who actually wrote a book called Healing Signs, also about medical astrology. So this tends to be a good nakshatra for that. He also, famous B.V. Raman had this one rising, had this nakshatra rising. So again, it lends itself to astrology. And I think healers, astronomers also, writers, research work, organizational development, because they can be very humanitarian, because Aquarius is a sign connected with humanitarian work. But again, because of the Rahu, can indicate a little bit of Rahu ruling this nakshatra, a little bit of unsettling emotionally. So there can be those aspects. What's been your experience with Shatabisha?
Winemakers, medicine makers, if it's badly placed, if it's afflicted, then we have our problems as regard, somebody, drug dealers, traffickers, and things like that.
Huh, yeah, that could be there.
Because of Varuni and, Varun, because the entire ocean, Varun, the deity of this nakshatra, the water bodies, in his womb, he had Varuni, that is he had Dhanvantari as well as Varuni. So Dhanvantari is the god of the medicines, and Varuni is the goddess of wine. So there is both of them, which is operating for this nakshatra.
The deity associated with this nakshatra is Varuna, and Varuna is the god of the waters. And so I had one client who had his moon in this nakshatra Shatabisha, and he sold water systems, like structured water to help purify the water, things like that. And so he had done that for a number of years. So I thought that was very interesting. But it can be connected with medicines, as you say, because there is a lot of connection with healers here. And it also, it's called the 100 flowers. So it can be connected with plant medicine, like Bach flower remedies, things like this. Even plant medicine can be here. Ayahuasca, some of these other things that are more controversial as far as plant medicine can also be connected with here. So like you were saying, drugs, alcohol, things like that can be associated with nakshatra. I feel like Rahu rules those things. Rahu rules sometimes the things that are controversial, whether they're actually good for us or not. So that's another question.
We can also have somebody dealing with petroleum.
Oh yeah, it's true. Liquids, things that come out of the sea. Yeah, things like that too. Yeah. Now, the next nakshatra is called Purva Bhadrapada. This falls first 3 padas in Aquarius, and then the last pada is in Pisces. And I find that with this nakshatra, there's a certain idealism, like a visionary energy that they can envision how the world could be. So there's kind of an idealistic, perfectionist quality with this nakshatras. And they can be good administrative planners. They can have good business skills. It's a spiritual nakshatra because it's ruled by Jupiter. So there can be priests or ascetics connected with this nakshatra, as well as research skills and statisticians. If this nakshatra is more challenged, it can indicate some interest in black magic, occult kinds of things. So these have been some of the things that I've found. But again, there can be good spiritual teachers because of the Jupiter ruling here. And Martin Luther King, the famous minister and preacher and humanitarian activist, had his moon in this nakshatra, as well as Sri Ramakrishna as well. So it seems to bring out the real strong spiritual qualities as well. What has been your findings with this nakshatra?
I find people having planets in this nakshatra very observant, very quiet and very observant. So they speak with a lot of weight. I find they would make good spies because they have a very poker face kind of an attitude. And two, they become when they speak, they're very motivational. So they can, but they have a lot of nervous energy. They can be very motivational for others, but inside they themselves might be seething. They do not reveal all that is their own, and they're very spiritual in their attitude. They help everybody attitude, but they can be very very, very nervous within.
Interesting. Yeah, that would make sense. The next nakshatra is Uttara Bhadrapada, and it falls totally within the sign of Pisces. And it is ruled by Saturn. And I find, again, the Saturn-ruled nakshatras are very powerful. Purva, Anuradha, and also Uttara Bhadrapada. And maybe it's the Saturn that helps to kind of ground the energy of these nakshatras. I find this nakshatra is connected with charitable work, with nonprofit organizations, because it's very spiritual nakshatra. And, there's, again, Uttara Bhadrapada can have connections with astrology also. Christina Collins, who's a very famous Western astrologer, has her moon in this nakshatra. Actually, Chakrapani Ulal, who just passed away, who was one of the greatest Vedic astrologers from India that lived in California, had this nakshatra rising, Pisces rising in his chart. Or sun, in this nakshatra, sorry, not rising, sun in this nakshatra. So it can lend itself to mystical work, writers, philosophers, again, imports, exports, travel industry can be associated with this nakshatra as well. And again, I think it's one of the more positive nakshatras that I find with the moon in Pisces, in this particular section of Pisces, Uttara Bhadrapada. And it's connected with the serpent of the deep sea. So as I always say, these people are deep sea divers. They're not snorkelers. They want to go deep into the depths of the ocean, of the cosmic ocean. What has been your experience here?
Very intuitive, very, somebody who goes out of his way to help others. Again, somebody who is an analyst, somebody who can listen to others, what others have to say, because they make very good observers, as well as they can process information for others. So that way, and very highly intuitive, a very strong gut. So spine is also one of these areas. And again, I would say is somebody who does a lot of charity work, somebody who does as an analyst, psychoanalyst and psychiatrist, therapist, something like that.
Yeah. They can be politicians also. Hillary Clinton has her moon in this nakshatra, for example. And also Indira Gandhi had her moon in this nakshatra. Now, the final nakshatra is Revati. Revati falls totally within the sign of Pisces, and it's ruled by Mercury. I find this nakshatra is very much connected with nurturing other people. Pushyan is the deity connected here, providing nurturing, and sometimes he's the protector of animals. So I find sometimes if this nakshatra is very strong, the person may be very much into animals or animal rights, you know, they're
Yes.
humanitarians, very psychic, very intuitive also. I agree with you that Purva Bhadrapada as well, because of the Pisces influence. So they can be psychics, mystics, people with religious, how would we say, a religious fervor for them. And there can be, again, political kind of interest here as well. There can be journalists, editors, excuse me, publishers, because of the Jupiter influence here. And again, I even find comedians sometimes will have this moon nakshatra. They have a good sense of humor. And again, very much connected with enlightenment. So spiritual teachers, sadhus, people that really want to go deep into their spiritual life. And it is the final nakshatra, so it's connected with moksha, with spiritual liberation. So these people can really have that be one of their goals, is really focused on enlightenment or spiritual practices. What has been your experience with this nakshatra, Anuradha?
I have a very startling experience with this nakshatra, Dennis, and I'd like to share it with you here. People who have Ketu in this nakshatra of Revati, actually I have seen and I've heard experiences in real life to be able to say this, that if they visit a dying, then the death is much more quicker and easier for the person concerned.
Interesting.
Because Pushan also leads the way to the heavens safely for a departing soul.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I realized it when I was, it happened for somebody very close to me, and then I came to know about 2-3 coincidences, and I put 2 and 2 together and asked those people if they had Ketu in Pisces in this nakshatra. They were all related friends. So, and it worked out. So I just was so much into that information, and because Ketu is moksha karaka. These people make very good navigators.
Yeah.
And as you just said, that these people have a very strong love for animals. Jane Goodall, the one known, the most famous personality for chimpanzees, she's had
right.
Jane Goodall.
Wow, that's great. Was her moon there in Revati?
No, I don't remember which planet she has, but she has a very strong planet there in Revati. So,
okay, great, fantastic.
So I find these people have a very strong love for animal, at least a sense of compassion for living beings like Pushan has.
I'd like to say too that besides the moon, the rising sign, the sun can also reflect any planet. For example, particularly the planet that rules the 10th house of career, wherever that planet's placed in the nakshatras can bring out can show their career interest. So there's a lot of ways to look at this. Even the rising sign ruler, what nakshatra it's in. The planet, anything connected with that, I think, is very strong. So I consider the rising sign kind of second in importance besides the moon. And then again, I would say I haven't done research with this as much, but also whatever dasha the person's running.
Okay. So this brings us to the end of our last 9 set of nakshatras. But Dennis, do please tell us about your conference in Sedona on nakshatras that you hold every year. It's very popular, I believe.
Yeah, it's coming up November 30th to December 3rd. And there's going to be over 25 speakers, 25 faculty. There's a number of different topics that are going to be all-day workshops. One of them is on Yogini astrology with Sam Jeppy. We have also we have Camilla Sutton speaking on the Panchanga, so which should be good, and Yoni Patri on how to interpret a birth chart using some of the secret techniques that she's found to be very valuable. Mas Vidal is doing a workshop on yoga and Ayurveda as it's connected with Vedic astrology. And we have also Arjun Pai, Dr. Pai, and Eve Mendoza speaking on unequal and equal nakshatras, how some of the nakshatras can actually be a little longer than 13 degrees and 20 minutes, and some of them may be smaller. So they're going to be presenting that research. So it should be very fascinating. So there's a number of great talks over the weekend too. Camilla Sutton's going to do a talk on retrograde planets. But there's a number of different topics. There's even a gentleman, Hassan Kazini, who's going to be speaking on Persian astrology and how the Persian astrology is very connected with Vedic astrology. So a variety of different topics. We have a number of Western astrologers that are going to be speaking too, but it's primarily focused on Vedic astrology, Ayurveda, and yoga. But the website is just sedonavedicastrology.com. And it's interesting, there's so much interest that this year we're already doubled the registrations that we had at this time last year. So there could be some possibility of it selling out because the hotel and the conference center is only so big. So we're already over half full right now. So I would encourage people to sign up this summer just to make sure that they have a spot. Because it could sell out as we move into the fall. So, and it would be great if you could come over, Anuradha.
Would love to come over. So, and we wish you a lot of luck with the registrations and all those who are interested. I'll be putting in the link to the registration down there in the description box. So anybody interested, please do log on there. And Dennis, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been actually a dialogue instead of just hosting, and it's been a pleasure talking to you on this 9 nakshatras and professions. But we will not leave you here. We will continue on our journey into nakshatra with you more further with more topics. Thank you so much, Dennis, for being on board.
Okay, thank you so much, Anuradha.
Till then, till we meet again, all of you guys out there, have a good day and stay safe.